Thank you very much. I'm Kris Vallotton, and I wrote the book, The School of the Prophets, and welcome to session number 6. The audience is telling me number 6. And I want to talk more about the role of prophet. Last session, we discussed a little bit about the role of the prophet, and we talked about how prophets can warn but not judge. And I want to talk a little bit more about what prophets do. I love the book of Ezra. The book of Ezra is a story of Cyrus letting the people of God go back and rebuild the temple. And so Ezra was the priest that was kind of like the contractor of the temple. He was in charge of the project. And it says this in chapter 6 of verse 14. It says, "And the elders of the Jews were successful in building through the prophesying of Haggai and the prophet Zechariah. They finished the building according to the command of God of Israel, the decree of Cyrus, Darius, Exusius, the king of Persia." I love this because there's a real partnership here that I think that we could really capture in the New Testament. And I think we're just going to touch on just a piece of it. But it says that the builders, that they were successful in building because Haggai and Zechariah were prophesying. How many of you know that words become worlds? That we're not on the eve of destruction, we're on the eve of construction. That literally we speak words that what? They build up, they cheer up, and they call people near. This is just an amazing, it's an Old Testament example of a New Testament office, actually, where Zechariah and Haggai are prophesying. There's builders building, but Ezra attributes the success not so much to the builders, which of course it would be partly to the builders, but he attributes the success to the prophets prophesying. Now, a part of that is, if you read the story, is that there was a lot of opposition to the builders building. So it wasn't like, oh, let's just go build a house. There was opposition to Israel rebuilding their country, to Israel rebuilding their temple. And so the prophets prophesied, while the kings made decrees. I love that. The kings made decrees while the prophets prophesied. Isn't that interesting? And as a matter of fact, just to take a step a little further back, Cyrus was the one who let the people of God go. It was during the days of Daniel. You'll remember Daniel served 4 kings. He served in Babylon. He served Nebuchadnezzar and his son. And then in Persia, the Persians came and conquered the Babylonians, and he served Darius. Darius is the one who threw him in the lion's den. And by the way, Daniel was about 93 when he was in the lion's den, which is probably why the lions didn't eat them. I mean, it's like, no, I don't like beef jerky. I know it was a miracle. I'm just being funny. But Darius was the one who threw him in the lion's den. And then Cyrus was the king that he served last in his old age. But what's really interesting about Cyrus is that Jeremiah and Isaiah both prophesied that a man named Cyrus would be born. Isaiah prophesied, Isaiah 45, that God would give Cyrus hidden treasures in secret places of darkness. King Cyrus. That was a couple hundred years, I think, before Cyrus was born. Jeremiah prophesied that at the end of 70 years, that a king named Cyrus would release the people of God. It's just, how many know this? By God coincidence, which there is no such thing, of course, Daniel just happens to live in Babylon and Persia for 70 years, and he just happens to still be serving kings as a prophet in the 70th year. And he just happens to be opening up his windows and praying towards Jerusalem for 70 years, 3 times a day. I don't know if you know where I'm going. I'm saying prophets change history. Sometimes they change history on their knees in prophetic prayer, and sometimes they change history when they prophesy the direction to kings. Sometimes hundreds of years before the king is born, a prophet has spoken, or a prophetess has spoken direction into the life of a king, or life of a president, a mayor, a person, a saint, an unbeliever, whatever, that sometimes hundreds of years before, there's prophetic declarations that are going forth that are actually creating history. They're writing history. And so in this case, the builders built, but they were successful because Zechariah and Haggai were prophesying, and they were building some synergy with the kings, 3 kings who were making decrees. I love it. Kings are making decrees. Prophets are prophesying. And somehow there's some kind of merger where God goes, I call kings, I call prophets, and it's a beautiful thing when they work together towards one common goal.